Welcome to the Liberation Lab podcast, insights and interviews for the disruptive educator. I'm honored to have my sis on. This has been a long time coming. I'm going to let her introduce herself, tell the people who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
It has been a long time coming. I'm like, you know how it is. First year, and then I'm
Yeah,
trying to do this dissertation too at the same time. I don't even know.
God bless you. I'm
Yeah.
almost there. I start in fall, so I'll be tapping the please help me out. All right.
Okay. And it takes community, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But I am Crystal. I'm in Cincinnati. I'm a principal, first year principal in Cincinnati. And I do this work because I love my community. That's
Point
it. That's
blank.
all. And they're worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we share that this is, I say all the time that leadership happens before the title. So I know you've been leading things before you got to this position, but this is our first official year leading from the principal seat, from the first chair. And so I figured let's just chop it up about first year experiences and things, and I think the folks can benefit from that conversation. So
For sure.
how is year one going for you?
You know what? I can't complain. Honestly, it's been mostly it's it's beautiful chaos, if
Mm,
that makes sense. Like
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
seeing kids be excited to come to school. Now, don't get me wrong, we're not 90%, attendance or anything like that. We still have our same attendance issues and things like that. But for the most part, kids come to school, they're excited. They're excited to tell you about their learning. The culture is starting to shift from a teacher-centered culture to a more student-centered culture. It's just been the chaos part comes from new leadership, right? Because we all know that new leadership comes in and everybody loses their minds, either
Mm-hmm.
a good
Mm-hmm.
way or a bad way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's been chaotic because our district right now is going through so many different changes. Right now, we're executing our superintendent's growth plan. So while I've been a first year principal, I'm also leading a consolidation. So there's two schools in my community, Avondale, A1,
Mm-hmm.
and I am the elementary school. I will be the elementary school. I am elementary, but I will be the PK through 5 building, and then the other building down the street will be a 6 through 8. So I'm consolidating and taking all of their PK through 5 students plus the teachers into my building.
Mm.
And that might sound very easy to some people, where it's like, oh, you pick up a
Mm-mm.
classroom and move it. But there's so many moving parts. The community is very spread. There's a lot of knowledge historically about family feuds and things like that we've got to navigate. So it's been a lot, honestly, to push instruction and to change and develop a culture that I want to see, and then also to do the consolidation work. It's been chaotic, but it's been really beautiful, and I feel like it's a good opportunity to serve more kids in our community.
So when you said consolidation, the first thing I heard was logistical nightmare. Um,
You ain't
because
lying.
it's exactly how I heard that. Like there's so many moving parts, and then I'm thinking about busing if there is. I'm thinking about um the transfer of like their information and forms and this and the students with special needs, and then what happens with that, and what happens with the amount of class sizes, and can you do that? There are a lot of questions. So when I hear that, I'm like, man, my heart goes out to you, because I don't know if the logistical piece is heard in consolidation. Consolidation always sounds nice. It's great. We're merging. It's great. It's going to be this wonderful merger. But I'm like, that's a lot.
Yes.
That's like a whole lot.
I'm thankful that there's not a school closing. That's where I am. I'm really thankful for that,
Mm,
because we are under enrolled in many of our buildings.
mm,
So to close a school, it can really, I mean, it can be detrimental to a
catastrophic.
community, especially our Black communities. So I'm thankful for that. So I'm willing to take on the extra stress
Hmm.
that it takes to do the consolidation. But it's not just me. My district is very supportive, and we have some structures in place to help with the logistics. But I mean, a lot of it does fall on us in the buildings, as you know. You know,
100%.
yeah.
If you could go back day one, you're walking into the seat, and you could tell yourself one thing, what would it be?
Girl, slow down.
Tell me more.
Take your time. So one thing about me is I really take my community seriously. I take my kids seriously. I take the privilege to be responsible for other people's children really, really seriously. I do not take that lightly at all. So every decision that I make, it's not easy. It's not easy for me to be like, oh, you got into a fight, you got to go home. When I know that you're going to go home and play the game because your parents working or whatever. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's not because your parents want you to play the game. That's another misconception that our parents are not involved. But for me, I would just tell myself to slow down. I do not have to boil the ocean. I can focus on one big rock from each of the different buckets, right? So one big rock in instruction, one big rock in operations, one big rock in culture, instead of all of the things, because I
Hmm.
want the best for my teachers. I want the best for myself. I want the best for my community. So I tend to take like hefty bites. If I could go back, I would listen to my boss, Dr. Alicia Smith. She
Hmm.
told
Hmm.
me, girl, slow down.
Mm.
And I wish I would have listened a little bit earlier in the year, for sure. What do you say to that? What would you say?
So mine is kind of similar. I think I would say you don't have to put on your cape every day. I came into a situation where I kind of inherited some things. So I was the assistant principal in my building for 2 3 years before I became the principal.
We don't allow that. So that's very new to me. Like that would be so new to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was there. I was AP, and then the next year. So it was three of us. So I was the seventh grade assistant principal. There was an eighth grade assistant principal, and then there was a principal. The next year, the eighth grade principal gets a job as a principal in another building. So now it's just two of us, and then we had a third person who was like a dean and trying to help out and things like that. So I kind of survived that year trying to hold it together with bubble tape and you know, some
Yeah.
gum and some tape. You know what I'm saying? Like that, I was just holding it together. So when I come in and I'm in the chair, I want folks to know it's going to be different. Like I want them to know that there's a level of expectation. I want them to know that, yeah, I'm for you, but I'm for these kids too, right? Like and if you are going to ask me to choose one or the other, it ain't gonna be you. I'm gonna choose the kids
Period.
100% of the time. And so that governs the way that I handle discipline. That governs the way that I handle, um, decision making. That governs the way that I handle where these dollars are going and organizational planning and leadership. That governs all of those things. So when it comes to me sitting there and coming in, here's the thing: first week or so, folks got to see that there was some organization. We're thinking about their professional development. They're coming in with a plan. They see that we've thought through things. And then reality sets in. Because now, if they've thought through things and now they're giving me things, there's going to be a level of expectation. And
That.
that is the part that became really hard to deal with, right? Because you said it earlier, and I want to ask you about this. You said we see the shift coming from a teacher centered environment to a student centered environment. And I said, oof, because that's a lot of mindsets and
Mm.
paradigms and things that have changed. So talk to me about that process.
So I will just say this: I don't have an assistant. It's me.
God bless you.
I get one next year, and I absolutely cannot wait.
Okay.
Um, I do not have an assistant, so it's just me. So I have to handle financials, and I have to handle instruction and discipline, right? I do have some teachers in my building that help with those things. My teacher in charge, or my team leaders.
Okay.
But what it looked like at the beginning was, so their principal took another job at a different district, a
Mm-hmm.
higher paying job, a higher job, an assistant superintendent job in a different district. And so everybody found out a week before school started.
Oof.
So I reported 3 days before school started.
Oof.
So I didn't get to like plan the beginning of the year. Like to me, the beginning of the year is a big deal. I would want to do a clap in. I would want to be out there excited that my kids are there. I'd want to be out there meeting families. But that was just not the way that they rolled. And then when
Mm-hmm.
I sat down, the first 60 days, I did a listening tour. So I only asked questions. So
Yeah.
I did one-on-ones with anybody that was open to one-on-ones. I did focus groups with kids, and I would just ask, like, they went from the school that I'm in now, they were 3 stars. I don't know how y'all's state does that, but our state does a star system up to five
Okay.
stars.
Okay.
They were 3 stars a couple years ago. Last year, they dropped to 2 stars. So one of my questions were, why do you think that is? What things were at play at that time? And there were a few teachers, particularly leaders in the building, that were like, I was pulled out of my classroom like 70% of the time. And so in the back of my mind, I'm like, unacceptable. That's not okay. And there's reasons for that. And I'm not blaming anybody because there's circumstances that require that we survive, right? And I feel like the teachers in my building have done everything to keep the building afloat and to make sure that kids get what they need. But they're human, right? And they've had human experiences. So I started to be like, okay, well, this is something that really shouldn't be in your lap. It should be in a principal's lap. And they'd be like, oh, but I want to be a leader later on. Okay, well, to be a leader, we can do this together. It shouldn't be put on you.
You.
So then I started taking things off of folks' plates. And it was, some of them were like, yes, thank you. I am so excited. I get to actually teach this year. And then some of them were like, you don't share decision making, things like that. So that was the feedback that has been coming to me multiple times this year, is that I'm not a collaborative person, but it's coming from just a small amount of folks, where the majority of folks are excited because now I'm redistributing power.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody has a voice in what happens, and not
Mm-hmm.
just, 2 or 3 people. And again, that's not shade, because those 2 or 3 people are strong, bold leaders and teachers. It's no shade towards them, but there are things that they needed off their plate so that we could do what we needed to do to get kids where they need to be. Because I don't care about stars, but the stars do tell us where the effort has been placed, right? So it tells us that our effort has been elsewhere other than making sure that our kids are getting what they need in order to sit for this bias test. I know the test
Mm-hmm.
is biased, but I want my babies to feel like they're ready and they're equipped with something to be able to sit and take it, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a balancing act, right? Trying to feed into and love on those that are excited about the changes,
Mm-hmm.
and then also just kind of trying to mend some of the things that are broken with the folks that haven't been as excited, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
You know, as you were talking, I thought about something similar in on my side of things, was with coming from I would call it a laissez-faire culture, where folks kind of were just allowed to do what they wanted to do.
That.
And so when I come in and I'm like, and I hear it in Teachergram, and I hear it in the larger world, and I understand where it comes from. But I was the guy that had to ask for, like, no, you need to put the standard somewhere. I need to see it. I need to see it because
The students don't know what they're doing. They're just, oh, I'm doing math today. Well, duh, you're in math class, but what are you learning?
what are we doing? Why
What are
is
we
there no
doing?
objective on the board? Like, why is there no intention for how we're meeting right now, and what are we doing? And you will know that you got it if you do that. Like, why is there nothing? Right? And so I get it. I hear the complaints, I hear the things, and they're like, it doesn't help, but here's where I'm saying it does, because there were classrooms I was walking into and I'm like, that's not a 7th grade standard. That's not an 8th grade standard.
Why are we
Right? So
doing
if we're not
area
even get
models?
say it again.
Why are we doing area models?
Yes,
That
yes.
type of stuff.
Or
Yes,
or
absolutely.
like, okay, cool. I'm glad that you want to do this fun activity that you got off a teacher pay teacher, but how is this moving the needle for my babies? How are you cultivating their genius? Shout out to Dr. Goldie. Right? Like,
Yeah.
how are you doing any of that if what we're talking about in this moment isn't related to anything that demonstrates that, right? So I had to come in myself, and shout out to my APs. Like, they are gifted, intelligent, wonderful Black women, and they get in there and they
Get it
don't
done.
play.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm fortunate to be in this position, because now hear me, I'm first year. My
Mm-hmm.
AP, first year. My other AP, first year. So folks who have been here for a while Some of them I'm like, yeah, we welcome the change. Like, I'm going to be the person that has your back when there's something going wrong, and a student is, I won't tolerate that type of disrespect. Now we're going to figure out how we're going to handle it, but I'm not going to tolerate it, right? Like, they know
Yeah.
there's a level of expectation. At the same time, I'm like, yeah, we're not going to send this baby away because you were sitting down in the back of the classroom not doing nothing, and then they decided to do something about
Square
that.
up.
Yeah,
Right.
we're not gonna do nothing about that. Right? Like, so I say all that to say one of the things that I have found as in year one is when you're coming in trying to put your print, if you will, your vision onto the culture that exists, you will find folks that's like all for it. And then you find some others that's like, and those resistant folks will find, at least in my case, every reason to try to create dissension because they live in that gray area, or they live in that, you know what I'm saying? So when they create that space, now it creates room for them not to do the thing you're asking them to do. And for me, that's the hard part. It's like, no, listen, I'm all for coaching. I will come in, we will look at it together. We'll say, okay, these are the needs. I will coach towards that. We'll connect about those things, and then I'll come back and look for it. But at a certain point, now it
Mm,
becomes a matter of accountability, and either you're gonna do it for these babies, or you're gonna have to deal with me. Either do it or we'll deal.
that part. And I think that's where I can't even tell you how many times this year I've said, if you spend as much energy on your lesson plans as you do checking me, our kids wouldn't be where they are, right? They're dependent on us, and there's way too much time spent with the drama and the trying to, you know, have these like underground movements or whatever that nobody is a part of with you. That's the thing. Like, you're on your own. You only have like one or two people that are on your side out of the whole entire building. Like, just relax. Like, I can be a help to you. You can be a help to me. It doesn't have to be like that. Yeah, that's definitely where I am. And especially like in the climate right now, I just feel like we've got to be even more strategic, right? To be able to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that our babies are not, but they don't fall victim to the organization to eradicate all of our history, right? So not only do we have to be strategic when it comes to operations and making sure that the kids know what they're learning and this and that, but we've also got to be strategic about how we teach them.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't come to my district yet. We still have all of our policies. We as of right now, March 24th, we still have like our anti-racism policy, our policy. We have all of those things in place. But who's to say that they won't be there they'll be there tomorrow? So for me, it's about building capacity with my teachers. And I will tell you that discipline, Bobby, you were talking about, like, we're not sending kids home because you were sitting back and they decided to square up. It's the triggering kids for me.
Say
So
more.
you know that a child has an oppositional disorder, oppositional defiance disorder, if we want to label him. Okay. We want to go through all of the processes to make sure that our kids get the papers, the IEPs, and the first and all this other stuff, but then we don't want to do what is right for them. So if I
Mm-hmm.
know that a child has a behavior issue, and one of their behavior issues is that they are triggered when somebody redirects them, right? And this is a real life story. I have a real life sixth grader right now, a boy. And if I am redirecting him, if I'm like, well, if you just do your work, then you wouldn't be in trouble. Or if I say, hey, what's the barrier right now? What do you need right now to get your work done? Those are two totally different ways to redirect that child. But that first
Mm-hmm.
way is our ego talking, right? And then he blows
Mm-hmm.
up, and then you want me to put him out. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm not putting him out. He can come sit with me for a couple hours. He can go talk to whatever. All my kids get to identify one or two people in our building that they trust to be able to bring them down from a heightened space or talk them out of a difficult situation. And there are a few kids that I am that person for them. And I know that I'm busy and I'm the only one and yada, yada, yada. But I'm like, no, you bring them to me. I don't care what I got going on. Because at the end of the day, I've got to make sure that they're okay so that they can open up their brains and learn. And these are kids that right now, per the benchmarks, they're on grade level. So what happens if I keep putting them out? I'm creating gaps
That
that
part.
weren't there in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's just
It
discipline has been really hard. It's been
or
hard.
I can't stand when something happens between teacher and student. The teacher's dysregulated. So you want to drag the, not literally, because that's lawsuit.
Yeah.
Um, but you want to drag the student to me to have a conversation with me in front of the student to shame the student to me.
Well, that happens a lot to me. And I'm like, stop. I'm asking the child right now.
What are we doing? Don't don't do like don't put me in a position where I'm going to have to check you
In front of a kid.
in front of the kid. Let's have the conversation out from the kid. You could tell me all the things, but let's not embarrass the kid in front. Like, let's not do that. Right. And I get it, right? Because in that situation, you feel disrespected. You feel like the student isn't listening. You feel like you aren't being supported in the way that you want. And I had to straight up tell my staff, literally, this was like during last staff meeting. I had to tell them, I said, listen, if you are the teacher that you want a pound of flesh when a student does something, if that's you, I'm going to disappoint you every time. I'm just not going to be that person.
Yeah.
Right. So you'll see. And I use an example. There was a security officer in my building. Student was like mouthing off, saying a bunch of different things. And I saw that in this moment, I'm not going to get through. So I went next to her like I normally do. I put my arm out. She put her arm in mine. I walked her to her class and I said, what's going on? Talk to me. She was like, she didn't have to talk to me like that.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I hear you. I hear you. And then I tried to explain, like, listen, let's be real. Are you in the hallway a little bit or a lot of bit? They laugh and they're like, I'm in the hallway a lot. I said, so from their
Exactly. They're going to
perspective,
tell on themselves. They will.
every time, every time. And so I'm like, from their perspective, they see you a lot. From their perspective, they're trying to get you to do something that you haven't done. And they felt like that was the way to do it. Was it the way to do it? We could critique that all day. I said, but can you understand from their perspective where that's coming from? Cool. I was like, I'm going to talk to them about how they addressed you. But I need you to understand where you might have went wrong. Can we do that at least? Now we have this conversation. Now they understand there's a consequence because we can't just talk to people the way we want to, right? But at the same time, we're not getting there from me yelling at them. We're not getting it there from me being, quote, stern. And what we had was tough love. And I'm like, yeah, you say tough love, but you forget the love part.
That part.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's this notion that I have to come in and rule with an iron fist. And I'm like, first of all, the stuff that y'all did back in our day, you definitely can't do now. That's first of all. Right? That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. But second of all, for us to say that that's why students are the way they are, that's why these things, like they're experiencing things that we did not have to experience.
Facts.
In ways that we did not have to experience them. Right? Like when I first got a phone, I was 18 and it had you flipped the thing and
Yes.
it was just numbers.
I
You
was
know
a
what I'm saying?
beeper kid. Come on now.
You didn't have I couldn't just scroll. I didn't know nothing about that, right? That wasn't our experience. And then things got more advanced and then there was texting.
Yep.
But I knew, you had to press, 2 a couple times and then 3 and then 7 and then, and I
That
could do that
part.
thing with my eye.
Yes.
Like it wasn't texting with keys. We didn't have any of that, right? So like there are things that these babies are experiencing that they're inundated with, that they are the messages that they're receiving. And I feel like we lack compassion for those things because we think that the footing is equal between what they're experiencing, what we experienced. And it's not one size fits all in discipline, and it can't ever be.
Oh my gosh. I just think about even the word bruh, right? The word bruh gets teachers so riled up. And I'm like, yo, when we were in school, we used to be like, dude, like we had our
Yeah.
own words or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, if he's calling you bruh or she's calling you bruh, they're calling you bruh. They're not, it's their placeholder for something else. Would you rather them
Yeah.
cuss you out?
Right.
They'll say bruh to somebody in my building or something, and they'll say, that's disrespectful. Well, Principal Watson doesn't say it's disrespectful, but then I have to have the conversation with them like disrespect gets to be chosen or defined by the person receiving it. So you've got to always know like where you are. But I'm with you with that. Like, and I'm raising a boy. He's 13 right now, and he doesn't have social media. He's not interested in social media. He does Discord and stuff like that and Twitch because he's a gamer. Like all other kids, middle schoolers want to be professional YouTubers and gamers. So he's not into that, and I'm thankful for that, for one.
Right.
But for two, I think about like raising him even. I've got to raise him different than what I was raised. The hardest thing that I had to worry about is somebody being on three-way while I'm having a conversation with somebody else. Like now, somebody snap a picture, a video, anything, and it's all out in the world
Yeah.
in seconds.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine. I wouldn't be a teacher if social media was around when I was their age.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was doing some crazy stuff when I was a teenager. Come on
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And we just want to forget that we had all these things going on, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's nostalgic for us to be like, well, I got beat with my mom hit me with the chancleta, or my dad hit me with the switch or whatever. It's nostalgic for us to be like, oh yeah, those were the good old days. No, we got
Mm-hmm.
different tools now, right?
Yeah.
So we don't need to be hitting our kids or whatever. And if that's the way that you choose to raise your kids, that's something else. But just in schools in general, like we don't have to be so carceral. We can bring it back a little bit and just remember that they're kids. I know they're brown and I know they're black, and sometimes we want to adultify them and make them seem way older than what they are because they're taking care of their siblings and whatever other assumptions we want to make about them. But at the end of the day, they're kids. They're kids. The seniors in the high schools are kids. They're kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we just don't afford them that.
I think that's such a great point, right? It is, we forget what it's like, and then we romanticize the discipline quote that we receive, not understanding that one, we were going through a traumatic experience for how one should learn, grow, and develop, what grace should be given, what should happen in terms of the learning that we were supposed to have, right? And sometimes we give too much credit to fear being a better teacher than it was, right? Like I learned to fear my parents about certain things. That doesn't mean I learned a lesson about what I should and should not be doing. It just manifested itself somewhere else where I didn't have fear, right?
Or you
And
waited
so
until you were older and wild out. Like,
that part,
yeah.
that part, right? And so knowing that and knowing about how people grow, knowing how people develop, I just wonder about, like you said, this carceral, we are fixated on carceral methods to fix issues or to handle things. And, I even said that in a meeting once, and folks was like the first time that they heard it. And I'm like, man, we got a lot of work to do if
Yeah.
this is where we are. You know what I mean? Let
And
me
that's
ask you
all.
this.
No,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead, Bobby.
I want you to say that point, but lead into this. I think about first year teaching and how my teacher prep program did not prep me to teach. I also think about the mentorship program I had to go through, and I think about the test I had to take, and I think about the classes I had to take to now step into this position. And yet again, here I am in the position doing things, experiencing things, leading things that I was not necessarily prepared for. So I want you to freedom dream with me
Mm.
about how we can better prepare each coming generation of leaders for the roles that and the things that we're experiencing now. But please go back to your point and then dream with me.
Yeah, I love that dream. For one, that provocation to dream and to radically dream, right? I think we have to radically dream in order for us to freedom dream. But I was just going to say that I feel like the carceral nature of our schools right now is exactly why my research is what it is, which is understanding why Black girls are so damaged emotionally and psychologically within the mathematical spaces that
Mm,
cause them to lose creativity, to feel like they have to do, they can't go into certain careers because they're not for them, et cetera, et cetera. So I was just going to say that.
yeah.
But to freedom dream, so I went to Columbia Teachers College
Mm-hmm.
for my
Mm-hmm.
second master's and my principalship, my principal license. And I thought it was great because I'm going to just be, my mom's got a middle school education and she's got a GED. So for me, I always knew I wanted to have whatever terminal degree in my field. I knew I wanted it. And it was just about, it wasn't about more money or anything like that. It's just, it was my own piece to say, like to kind of close the gap for my mom and for myself. So I got this fellowship. So I got to go to
Mm-hmm.
Columbia for free, which was very nice. Room and board, all of that good stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first thing that we can do is stop accepting people just because they're paying.
My
Because I can
mind.
tell you right now, my cohort, more than
Uh-huh.
half of my cohort should not be leaders.
Mm. Mm.
And I know that that sounds harsh, but I mean, we had folks in there that didn't know how to have critical conversations with other leaders, let alone someone else that reports to them. So I think for one, we've got to get more stringent, and I wouldn't even call it more stringent. I would call it more strategic
That's
in
good.
making sure that we are not accepting people just to fill a quota. So if
Hmm.
we want 20 people or 50 people to be in this program, in this cohort, I don't care if I only get 30 out of the 50. They're 30 quality people, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing. But also, one thing that was, I did SPA. I don't know if you know about the SPA program, Summer Principals Academy
Some.
at Teachers
Oh,
College.
yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
There's lots of us that have been through that. But anyway, I did that. And the main part of that, and I learned a lot, but not necessarily from where you think I should have learned it. I learned it from the people that I'm still very close to: Izzy, Dean, Ashley. Those are like my three cohort members that, well, three members that were a part of the cohort that I learned the most from. And it was just through our conversations about our conversations, our experiences, et cetera, et cetera. And so, what I feel like needed to be different about the program was it was not based in reality, although it was touted as though it was based in reality. So, we were required to build a charter school from scratch. Right. So we had
Wow.
to do the budget. We had to come up with the name, all these other things. And it was beautiful. Like, it was a beautiful experience. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to build any charter. I'm not going to open a charter. That's not something I'm interested in doing. I'm going to go and lead in an urban public school. Like, that was my goal.
Okay.
So for me, we were in New York. Why wouldn't we go and visit schools and be able to write and reflect on what we see, right? So
Yeah.
what do we
Yeah.
see? What get in, and there was an internship where we had to um, intern with a principal in our city. So I interned with my current principal at that time. His name is Lewis. So Mr. Lewis and I would talk about things, but like I it wasn't like a it was very hard to learn in that space because we were also it was COVID. So there were no kids in our building. We were doing everything virtual, things like that. So when I became an assistant principal, I was very vocal about I will not go to just any building. I know what principals I want to learn from because I've been a math coach. So I've been to all 64 of our schools. I know what principals I want to learn from. So I will not accept an assistant principalship if it's not one of these. I'll stay as a math coach. I loved my job as a math coach. So I ended up getting one of my three top choices. So I went and was an assistant principal. And I will say that I was more prepared by my principal than most are. I had a really great principal. I worked with her as a math coach too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she shined the light on me that there is no program out there that prepares you for that seat. None.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's not.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what that program would look like other than maybe like a on the job type of thing with a mentor right
Yep.
next to you type of deal.
Yep.
But we're so underemployed that it's like, oh, we need you in the seat. Hurry up and get in there and we'll support you while you're there.
Yep. Yep.
So I just
Build the
kind of
plane while
failed
you fly.
forward. Yeah, I just been failing forward all year
Mm.
long. And I have
Mm-hmm.
an amazing boss, an amazing supervisor that has done turnaround work. She's amazing. Like, she knows her stuff. But there's just something about being in the seat that you just can't learn in another space. Like, you have to learn it while you're there. So having somebody day to day next to you, being able to walk you through a veteran person, I think that that's what we need to be doing. Almost like teacher college, where you have to do your teaching, your student teaching.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure why we're not doing that with leadership as well.
Man, I would agree. Um I think that the coaching and feedback and support that is needed has to come after, you pass the test, after you take the classes, right? Like, and someone that has led transform, transform in a way that can help you, you know,
Yes.
take your ideas and right, like, and bounce them off them and figure that, like, I would need somebody, I think, that For me, it's about turnaround. For me, yeah, it's about culture change. For me, I got to develop more in like vision. I'm there. You asked me about the vision of my school, I could talk about it, right? I could develop more of my instructional leadership. Not that I'm not good at it, but I definitely could develop more in terms of where I see us going, right? I know I need to continuously grow, right? That organizational piece, sometimes, man, that stuff is draining. Hear me. The paper pushing, the this, I can't stand it. I know it's part of my job. I got to do it, but it is draining to me, right? And so having somebody that I could bounce that off of and reconnect that piece, even to the vision piece that gets me inspired, even to, the transformational change that needs to happen. So I could keep that in the forefront of my mind. I think that would be really, really helpful. Right. So I think it's one, that coaching piece, having somebody who is familiar with the terrain that you're trying to walk. But then, man, I also think, and this might not be for everybody, but man, I think therapy should just be non-negotiable.
Okay. And I'm telling you, I love my friends because I've survived just off of my sisterhood. Like
Yeah,
Jotty, Damaris,
yeah,
Izzy, Yoli,
yeah,
Shane, and I mean I can name so many. And
yeah.
I've survived based off of sisterhood, like just a check-in. Hey, how you doing, baby?
Mm,
Are you okay?
mm-hmm,
Are you taking care of
mm-hmm.
yourself? Did you go to the gym this week? Like Jotty would, she's good for texting me and be like, have you been in the gym? Because she knows that
Yeah,
that's important to me.
yeah,
So I can't even tell you, like, I'm so, so thankful for community, for collective, my hip hop ed community. We have a group chat, we check in on each other, those types of just small micro communities. Like, I don't need a whole lot, just check in on me and remind me that I'm alive sometimes.
yeah. Yeah, because I've said this before, but like so much of this job will keep you glued to the nuts and bolts of how everything's working together, and you become so fixated that it might as well be right here on your face that you forget to look up, you forget to see the terrain, you forget to take a breath, step back, whatever it is, you forget to do all of that because there's always something right here, right?
Always.
And on top of other people's failure to plan becomes your emergency, right? On top of that,
Okay. I'm like, you could have told
also,
me this a couple weeks ago. Like, what am I doing? And then you're telling me it's due on Monday. Come on now, it's a Friday. You want me to work over the weekend? Where is my extra pay? Like, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, like all the things. Like, I don't have time to that's
that
my
part,
time.
yeah,
Chill
that
out.
part, that part, right? And those are the things that ultimately sustain us when we can have. I don't believe in work life balance. I don't know that that is even possible, but I do think that there's harmony, right? Sometimes there's going to be something that requires more of me. And, for me in recent seasons, it's been home. Home needed more time. My kids needed more time. I need to be able to serve and love and cherish my wife in ways that mean that I can't be all the things I need to be for all 600 plus of my babies. I'm sorry, I
Okay.
can't, right?
Yeah.
And how dare I do that and then I forget the two that I that
Okay.
I have, right?
Okay. And pouring into, water what waters you, and who waters you most are the people that are under your roof, right? So you can, and sometimes like I gotta be checked to be like, yo, you gotta make us a priority because them kids, I get it. Like, and I know that you care about your kids. I know you care about your school, but put that down for tonight. Like sometimes I
Yeah,
gotta be checked because I'm always thinking about it. I'm always talking about it. It's a part of
yeah,
my identity. I know people are like, oh, your work shouldn't be your identity, but it is a part of my identity. I'm an educator.
yeah,
I'm a giver,
yeah,
I'm a caregiver, I'm a nurturer, I'm all of those things by nature before I stepped into a building.
yeah,
So those things didn't just happen because I was a principal. It's who I am as a person. So sometimes that's why I love to surround myself with accountability partners that'll be like, no, no,
mm-hmm,
stop. You need to
mm-hmm,
take a break. Spring break is here right now. I've already opened my computer a few times
mm. Yep, yep,
because everything's got to be done. I need an operation schedule for next year. I need to, all the things. So,
all the things. So let me ask you this as we run out of time. I want to ask you one more question. Then I want to ask you, how folks can get in touch with you, tap into your genius, support you, and things like that.
yeah.
one of the things that I think is missing from education writ large is the ability to say I'm sorry. Like we we are continuously being fed messages that we are supposed to be perfectionists by trade.
Mm.
And if it's a teacher and they're dealing with a student, if it's a teacher and they're dealing with their curriculum, if it's a teacher and dealing with other teachers, if it's a principal and so many of all the things that go on, right? And we just forget that we need to be apologizing. If we're not apologizing, we're not doing it right because you're going to make mistakes. And if it was a perfect school and then you walked in, then forget it now, right? Like that's how that works. If you think back to just this year, and yeah, we're kind of over the halfway mark, nearing going home, right? And if we're using the baseball analogy, what's something that you wish you apologized more for?
So I love the question, but I apologize. I am an
That's good.
apologizer.
Yeah.
So not because I'm an overthinker, but not because I'm an overthinker, but
Same.
um, I am such an overthinker. It's terrible.
So bad.
I will say, like for instance, last year when I was an assistant principal, there was this boy, he cussed me clean out after
Mm,
I redirected him in lunch. And of course he had to come home, but when he go home, but when he came back, I asked him like, what's going on? Like we're usually really cool. Like what's going on? He was like, you yelled at me in front of my peers. And I had to think about it like I didn't yell at you. We were in the middle of the lunchroom. It was loud, but that was his perception. And I literally said, I'm really sorry. I apologize if I yelled at you in front of anybody. I would never, y'all know I don't yell at you. I don't yell.
yeah. Yeah.
So I apologize for that. This year, with the changing of the power structures and things like that, I had one on one conversations with some of the folks that were really affected by the decision making. And I apologized for my part. And I've said, I apologize for not supporting you in a way that made sense for you or that made you feel whole. I felt like I supported them, but that doesn't mean that that's their truth, right?
Mm,
I think if I were to apologize more for something this year, I think that I would apologize more for me not giving up my type A personality early. Because I'm like, if I want to get something done, I don't want to bother other people, right? I'm like, let me just get it done and then I'll get feedback on it. And that's not what my teachers want. My teachers want to sit down and talk through things and I can do that sometimes. Can it happen every time? Absolutely not. There's too many
absolutely
things
not.
going on. There's going to be times where I do things on my own and you just got to deal with it. But at
Right.
the same time, there are times where I could sit down and we could start from scratch and let them build. And I would apologize more for not having more opportunity for that this year because the pressure that has been on me at first, Bobby, I forgot to tell you this. I started out as the interim principal.
Yep. Yep.
So, you start out as an interim and you're like, okay, you're on this year long interview and
Yep.
everybody's watching everything that you're doing. They're seeing, are your scores going up? What's the culture like? All of these things, right? So it's a lot of pressure. So I would apologize for that. I would definitely apologize more for that. Even though I have apologized, I would apologize more that I have not opened up those spaces as much as I could have.
I love that. I love that. I think I would totally apologize for I think early on, and I don't know if it was more this year, I would say definitely last year for the ways that people pleasing tendencies got in the way of me leading well. And I've had to hurt people's feelings a little bit more. And not in a way that's like intentional, just like, no, this is the standard. This is where we're going. Right. And at a certain point, there's only so much that we can talk about, right? Like
Mm,
there's only so much that I can ask. There's only so much that I can demonstrate or remind, right? Friendly reminder. I listen, I can't friendly reminder you again. I asked you to
okay.
do this thing, you ain't do it. We talked about it. I'm sorry. You just got to take what comes with it, right? And and for me, I think that I have I would also apologize to myself because in some ways you have to be okay with being the bad guy.
Mm, mm,
And I think that there was a big part of my identity growing up and even so much that I've had to unlearn that I didn't give myself room for nuance and complexity because I always had to be the good guy. And so when you lead from that type of place where you need to be the good guy, or you feel like you have to be the good guy, then sometimes what you're going to do is enable people because you want to be the good guy. And I
Mm.
think I would apologize to myself for that, because I think it can stifle growth in ways that I would be ultimately responsible for. Now, I'm grateful to say I'm not in that space. I'm grateful to say that that my APs challenge me as we do each other and hold each other accountable for these types of things, right? And I'm honest with them. Like, here are things that I know that I'm still growing in, I'm still developing in, and so
Mm.
they're very gracious and honest with me as we move forward. But I would think I would apologize for those things for sure,
Well,
for
that
sure.
reminds me, my colleague said to me, and this was just a couple of weeks ago, she said, I've been really nice to my teachers, but I have not been kind. And I
Hmm.
said, what do you mean? And she said, there's nothing kind about telling you that you're doing a good job when you're not, when it comes to other people's kids. She was like, if I'm a kind person, I'm holding you accountable. And that, shout out to Ashley. And that stuck with me. I was like, okay, Ashley, I hear you. And she's in my principal cohort. Each one of us report to a person, an assistant
Yeah.
superintendent or our deputy. And we all report to our deputy. And she was just like, I just have not been kind to them. And it's time that I be kind. I was like,
Mm.
damn, okay, check, check.
That's real good. That's real good. That's real good. So, I'm gonna ask you this last question, and I want you to tell folks how they can get in touch with you, how they can support you, tap into your genius, and all the things. What are you most hopeful for looking forward, from this year one into year two? What brings you hope?
I'm hopeful for a new vision, a new mission that is community based, that is community informed. I'm hopeful for a larger community impact. I'm hopeful for collective work that is based in love, but also accountability. So being kind to one another, which means that we are holding each other accountable. Because if I love you, I'll hold you accountable. If I don't love you, I'll let you keep walking, right? So I'm hopeful for all of that. I'm hopeful for the our future. I'm hopeful that we continue to know that underground movements are not new. We might have our own freedom summer. We might have our own silent protest. We might have our own, Selma, right? We might have all of that at one point or another, but our ancestors did, and they survived and thrived, and so will we. So I'm really hopeful for all of that. But yeah, I love, love, love to be in conversation with folks. I can be reached at Crystal, or no, Watson Crystal M at Gmail, or you can get me at Crystal M Watson on all my socials. I'm pretty low key right now because, as you know, Bobby, like there's not a whole lot of time to do social media. I used to be way more on there. I try to get on there a couple times a week, update folks, say something funny or helpful or
Right.
both.
Right.
But just know I'm still around, I'm still alive. I just am very focused on making sure my community is good for this upcoming year.
100%. 100%. Um, please connect with my sis. She's doing great work. She's a dope human out here trying to do all the things. So, man, I really appreciate you spending time. You know, we had we had tried, and then it didn't happen. We had tried, and it didn't happen, and then this time I had to reschedule. And I was like, okay, it's gonna happen in God's time. It's gonna be fine.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be all right.
Yes. We was gonna get it
So
together.
at some point, and it would have been worth the wait, right? So I'm glad that now it has happened, and you can share this time with us and with the Liberation Lab community. Appreciate you. Wishing you all the things: peace, ease, joy, as you continue this year and on this spring break. Please rest.
I will.
You
I'm gonna be
deserve it.
checking up on you to see how we're doing in year two.
Please do. Please do.
Yes.
I actually start the doctorate in the fall.
I'm definitely gonna be checking up on you. You about to get a run for your money with your
Yeah,
time.
yeah, buddy. Yeah, 100%. So thank you, sis. And if there's anything we could do, please let us know. We're in your corner.
No, thank you. I appreciate you. Same to you.
Absolutely.
Anytime.